Hey, what's going on? It's 𝐁𝐨𝐴𝐤 with the No Flipping Excuses Show. I am so excited that you're here with us today. I've got a very special guest with you, a good friend of mine I've known for over 10 years now. And one of the things I just want to do before we hop in and I introduce you to him is if you are not a subscriber to our channel, make sure you click that red button below. We would love to have you part of our community. And as always, we will continue the conversation well after this episode is done and over with. Down in the comment section below, always let us know what you enjoy about the information that we're covering. We would love to hear from you, and I'm here to help you as best as possible. And make sure, if you enjoy this episode, share this on Facebook, share this on LinkedIn, share this wherever you want. We would love to have you doing that. That would help us get this out there to the masses so that we could be helping as many people as possible. But with that being said, I would love to introduce you to my friend, Mr. Cameron Dunlap. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm awesome, Jason. Thank you for having me. And it's a great time to be alive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know we talked a little bit about that offline, but I'm so excited. Cam's one of these individuals that I've known before I was getting involved in real estate back in 2008. I remember Cam, and geez, Cam, you've been doing business now for a few decades. For people that might be living under a rock, why don't we tell them? Why don't we have people find out a little bit more about you? Why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what you're about? We've got an amazing show, by the way, in store for you guys. So stick around. There's lots of great stuff that we're going to be sharing.
And thank you, viewers and listeners, for spending the time with us here when you could have been doing something else. So clearly, you made the choice to be here, and I appreciate that. I am first and foremost a real estate investor and have been full-time since 1993. I've been around a long time. I'm much older than I look. And
you do look pretty young, actually.
Well, you only need to do the math. But anyway, the advantage that 3 decades in the business provides me is hindsight. And they say it's 2020. And so for that, I am very grateful. And in particular today, what I focus on mostly is holding and managing a portfolio of properties and mostly wholesaling houses for quick injections of cash. And because it's fun and simple and I really enjoy it, and it gives me an opportunity to really keep my finger on the pulse of the market. And then, of course, my company has tools and specialized funding products that help our clients to do more deals sort of alongside with me and my team. And so the tools that we provide enable folks who might otherwise not be able to do the business to do it at a very high level, very quickly, and very efficiently in terms of time and return on the investment of your time. So, over the course of those 3 decades, I've kind of grown 2 businesses simultaneously. One on the asset side, where I bought and sold and hold more properties than I could count over the years, utilizing every strategy you could possibly imagine. And then the other side of the business is where we continue to, on every day, my team and I, to develop software tools, data tools, financial products that eliminate the frictions and provide our clients with the most pertinent and profitable information that is available to us in a format that is easily utilized regardless of your computer savvy. So you could be a computer nerd like me, or you could be a computer dummy, and it doesn't matter because our tools are designed to enable either end of the spectrum and everyone in between. So those 2 businesses have grown simultaneously with this really cool symbiosis, because over here on the asset side, I continually learn about frictions and challenges and opportunities. And over here on the tech side, the financial technology side, we're constantly developing tools to make doing deals more simple. And so the feedback that each provides the other is this loop that is fascinating and that I created years ago and has grown, kind of like two cakes in the oven simultaneously over the years, to the benefit certainly of my business, let's face it, but also massively to the benefit of our clients, for whom we continue to improve every day.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, like a lot of the folks that we've shared, because we've done trainings before in the past, and I've seen so many of our folks that have, gone with the data, gone with the training, and they've seen amazing results in their business. And I think a lot of that has to do with the data and the tools that you provide. And to be honest with you, that's one of the main reasons why I wanted you to come on and join today, so that more people could be exposed to the tools and the data and everything that you guys offer, because that's king, especially in today's type of economy, is by you need to have the right type of data. You need to have the right types of tools. And one of the things that we're going to talk about towards the end of this is that you and I have a special training that's coming up. And I'm going to tell people why it's so important here in just a minute, and how it could save you, tens of thousands of dollars, especially from somebody that I'm not going to spill the beans just yet, but I'll talk more about that. You didn't even know about it, Cam. So it's kind of a big surprise for you too, but it's a good one. But for people that are on right now, a lot of the people that we have join us from our community are on the newer side. So Cam, for people that are just getting started from like a wholesaling standpoint, or maybe they want to get into fix and flip, or maybe they want to start, doing buy and hold. Why don't we touch on the wholesaling side first? And why don't we kind of touch on, like, Cam, you've got 3+ decades in this business. If you were brand new in 2025 right now, where would be some of the places that you would start for, getting some momentum going?
Great question. Well, I couldn't be more bullish about the future of real estate from an investor's perspective, whether you're new or seasoned. So your timing couldn't be better. In fact, I recently said that if I were going to start all over again, I would want it to be right now. I really would. So if you're new or newish, I would suggest that wholesaling properties where we buy and sell without doing repairs, without taking the risk of over repairing a property, which is not hard to do, without needing massive sums of money that you need to sign on the dotted line for, and have credit and experience to back up, and without a degree or a bazillion hours of training. Wholesaling is the place to start. It's the fastest, easiest money in real estate, without a doubt. It is a competitive market that we're in, which I think is healthy and normal. And so my suggestion with regard to that is be willing to utilize the tools and do deals where they are. Go to where the deals are, and don't just assume that they're in your backyard. They may be, but there are deals where the numbers work. So when you try to force a deal to work somewhere, you usually end up burning up a lot of energy without much to show for it. But when you are selective about where you go, and I mean in terms of geography, that can be extremely effective. So for example, if you're in a highly competitive coastal market, what I would recommend is you get your head around the idea of doing deals elsewhere, more toward the middle, So I'm coming to you right now from the state of Florida. The opportunity in the state of Florida is in the middle. The opportunity in America, in my opinion, right now, for those of us that are new or don't have massive resources or a giant flywheel already turning, is in the middle.
Yeah.
So, and in communities that are, say, 100 to 200,000 or, even smaller, small communities are a great place to learn the business and to achieve nearly, if not immediate success, as opposed to, say, San Diego or Phoenix or, Fort Lauderdale. You know, those are cutthroat markets where you might just get discouraged. And there's nothing worse when you're new than getting discouraged, because what that
Right.
could do, if the people around you don't, the naysayers in your world don't, being discouraged could steal your success. Don't
Yep.
let anybody or anything steal your success. You can be successful. You might need to just, alter your course a little bit to accommodate for the fact that you're new. And, listen to those that have come before you and who've made the mistakes and who have, skinned their knee, and learn from that. So those are my thoughts. If you're new, if you're in the business, I would suggest, and you're not wholesaling houses, I would suggest, and this is what I did, I would suggest that it is an amazing add-on strategy. So if you're rehabbing houses or you're doing buy and hold rentals, maybe you've got a couple duplexes, whatever, when you bring wholesaling into your toolbox, what you then have, you provide yourself the opportunity to cherry pick the deals. So very briefly, the way I discovered wholesaling was completely by accident, like a mile from here, playing racquetball with a friend of mine in 1995. I had a house under contract that I didn't have the crew to put on it right away. So I knew it was going to sit empty for a while. And I was lamenting about not wanting it to sit vacant when he said, "I'll give you $5,000 for it." And I said, I'm in like my backswing playing racquetball. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I didn't know what he was talking about. And then he explained it to me. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting concept I've never heard of. And then I thought, well, but I didn't really do anything to deserve the $5,000. And he said, well, whoa, hold on a minute there. Yes, you did. You found the deal. You negotiated the deal. You put it under contract. That's not nothing.
Right.
By a long shot, that's not nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay you for that work, but then I'll take the deal, do the rehab, and ultimately make more on it than you will if I pay you the $5,000. But $5,000 right now, without the capacity to get your guys on it right away, might be the ultimate exit strategy. And I
Yeah.
said, holy cow, let me think about that. Next morning, I called him. I was like, let's go. And so right then, I felt like I, in a way, discovered the fountain of youth, because I then realized that I could continue making offers at a very high pace. And when deals came across my desk, when an offer gets accepted, I had then a third exit strategy, which allowed me to cherry pick the deals. So, for example, if I got a deal under contract and I thought, it's not really one I feel like rehabbing and it's not a great rental, I'll wholesale it. And the next one I get on my desk and I think, whoa, that's a great rehab, I'm going to do that and sell it to a retail buyer. Or the next one I get, I say, wow, that's in a killer neighborhood for rental. They big high rents in that neighborhood. I'll rent it for rehab. And then the next one, wholesale. So the concept of cherry picking deals, in my eyes, and it's arguable, I imagine, but in my eyes, requires you be wholesaling, because there's where you have when you add wholesaling as an exit, you then can ramp up your buying effort, knowing you're not going to end up with more than you can handle, because you can handle everything as long as you're willing to wholesale.
Right.
And by doing that, you become a master at attracting motivated sellers, making the right offers, and getting them accepted, because you're practicing the fundamentals every day. Where if you wholesale 3 houses a year, you come back and you're about done with this one, you think, oh, I got to go find another house, and you got to turn the switch back on to find deals. Well, you got to ramp that back up. Maybe it's a little stale. What was working then isn't now. this keeps you in the game, practicing the fundamentals every day. And the most successful people in any industry and in the sports world practice the fundamentals every day.
That's true. That's true. Like I like going to basketball games, you still see the athletes that are warming up. They're doing the dribbling, like the basic fundamental dribbling. They're doing layups. They're taking jump shots. Like we're talking about the basic stuff here, and a lot of people kind of overcomplicate it. Wouldn't you say? Like they think they need to do this, they think they need to do that. It's just they add too much to their plate, and like you said, a lot of them sometimes get discouraged and they, don't want to do the business anymore. When it's such a great business, especially to get into. You talked about it. No banks are needed. At most, like here's a little secret I'll share with people. Our $10 property flip method, we just put $10 as consideration on the earnest money deposit. And sometimes that's the most we'll have exposed on a deal. So you could get away with very low earnest money deposits as well if you structure it the right way. So you're not having to go and get all this. You don't need a bunch of experience right out of the gate to do wholesaling, but it also gives you a ton of experience because you're looking at deals from A to Z, so that if you want to get into more creative stuff, you now have a really good foundation for that. So some of the things, Cam, that I wanted to kind of jump into here is, you guys obviously have a ton of tools that we can use. I've used them in my business. Like Vacant House data feed has been a game changer for us over the years. So hands down, one of the great tools out there. But for people that are just getting started right now, you talked about being in the middle a little bit. But if you had to, still on the same topic, if we're starting over here, what type of, this is a big topic for people, right? What type of leads would I go after? Would you mind jumping into that for just maybe a little bit?
Happy to. One final thought on our discussion about if you're new. The last thing I'll say on that is that if you're new, you're not ready to start rehabbing houses. So
I know, right? Yeah.
There's too much risk in that. Get out there, cut your teeth, learn the basics, get a foundation, get your legs under you. And then when just the right deal comes across, and by the way, you'll get to know your buyers who are doing rehabs and you'll watch the process because you're friendly now. You'll take them to lunch, whatever. And now when that house comes across your desk that, you now have in a contract and you've already looked at it, you know what repairs it needs. And you say to yourself, that's the one. That's the one for me to start rehabbing on. That one, not the last one, or not the one before that, this one. So you'll know when. All right. So, and I'm gonna kind of paraphrase your question. I'm gonna restate it by saying, what are the best leads? What are the best filters to use? What should I go after right now? And I love that question because who doesn't want to know that?
Right.
So vacant houses, which you brought up, have always been a very big part of my business because it just on that one factor alone, you can almost say for sure the seller's motivated. Now, if it's a second home, if they're a snowbird like me and they got a house up north and one down here and it's sitting vacant, well, that one's unlikely to make the list. We work very hard to filter out those.
Yeah.
And we can do that by triangulating and look at, okay, where's the owner? What else do they own? Oh, look, they got a house up in, New York or Connecticut or whatever, and they have one in Florida. Okay, take it off. So, and then we're able to actually verify that the houses are vacant. Now, vacant houses will always attract vermin, vandals, and vagrants, the 3 Vs, as I say. And no owner of a vacant house is unaware of that. They might be in a state of paralysis, mental, emotional paralysis, not know what to do, but they are abundantly aware of that. Now, here's another thing that I think is very interesting that most folks don't know. Most insurance policies, whether it's a owner-occupied or a landlord, non-owner-occupied policy, have an exclusion written into them that says, in the event the property is vacant for more than 30 days and there is a loss, outside of that 30-day window, the insurance company has the right to deny your claim. So there's huge insurance risk
Yep.
when you have a house sitting vacant. Now, look, Jason, when you and I are rehabbing a house, we're going to carry builder's risk. That covers a
Right.
long-term vacancy, and materials that are uninstalled and things like that. But John and Linda Smith, who own this rental property that's 500 miles from their house because they lived in it at one time and then moved and kept it, and it's sitting vacant with a landlord's policy on it. They don't know that they don't have builder's risk or some of the rider, policy to cover them for an extended period of vacancy.
Right.
So they are at extraordinary insurance risk and probably don't know it. So, just to extend on that thought for one more second is what you do. It's a good idea when you're talking to that seller to share that information with them, but do it in a way that's kind and gentle instead of like saying, you're in a trouble here. You better, that isn't going to work. People do business with people they like. So
Right.
when you're kind and gentle and you become their trusted authority, they'll sell the house to you for less than the other guy because they like you. So vacant houses are a big deal. They always have been and always will be for those reasons.
Yes.
I'll also add another layer on that of pre-foreclosure. And, there's lots of strategies and filters but right now, sellers have equity.
Yes.
Almost all property owners have equity. We haven't seen a correction in the real estate business since 2008 or 9. And then from about 2012 or 13 on, it's been like up and to the right.
Agreed.
And so if you're looking at a house where the owner has held it for more than 3-5 years and they haven't refied it and bought a Lambo or whatever,
Lambo.
they've got equity. And so here's what that means. There's a couple of things. Number one, equity is like the grease on the gears of deal making. The fact that the seller has equity makes it more likely they will and can accept our offer. So if you've been around a while, in 2009, 10, 11, nobody had equity. Their houses were suddenly worth less than what they owed, and the only way to make that work was through a short sale with the bank, which took months and months and months, and the banks were total jerks about it with resale restrictions written into the deed, and it's a different world today.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
I was doing tons of those short sales back then. Yeah, we would have to wait months and months and months.
Oh.
So I get it. And you get me all excited talking about the pre-foreclosures now because we're not going to have to do short sales, Cam. We're not going to have to do that. Like there's so much equity in a lot of these properties now. So I had to share that there. So sorry, I cut you off on that. I get excited when we talk about pre-foreclosures in 2025. This is awesome.
Well, I love your enthusiasm, and I'm sure your listeners do as well. So, but here's where it gets really interesting in the pre-foreclosure situation. So they own this house, whether they live in it or not, and they have a payment, they have a mortgage, and all of a sudden this payment becomes undoable, untenable. They can't make the payment. They loss of job, death of whatever the motivating factor. Well, now the bank is threatening to foreclose on this property where they owe, just say arbitrarily, $100,000 and the property's worth $300,000. So they're staring a loss of that equity in the face. If the bank takes that property, the borrower does not get a check.
Right.
It doesn't work that way. The lender may when they go sell it, but that's a whole different avenue. What we're talking about is buying the property from the seller before the bank forecloses. And the motivation is all that equity that, depending on the condition of the property, some of, maybe a lot of, will end up in the hands of the seller. So that motivates them to sell now rather than try and hang on and, the 5 stages of grieving and get stuck in denial, right? And then all of a sudden there's a sale at the courthouse steps or, the trustee sale, and they no longer own this house and no longer have any equity.
Right.
Now, I talked about a state of paralysis. What a lot of sellers, what I observe, a lot of sellers are in a state of paralysis. So they don't know what to do. And when most folks don't know what to do, there's a little fear, there's a little, there's a whole bunch of unknown things going on around them. They kind of freeze. Most folks just
Yep.
sort of freeze in the face of fear. So what that means is it's our job, it's incumbent on us to find these people and gently, kindly nudge them so they don't lose this house, so they don't lose it to the bank.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're going to buy it at a discount. We're going to make a profit. That's
Yeah.
what we do. But the way we do that is by solving people's problems. And now someone's sitting in a state of paralysis facing foreclosure. They've got a problem. And
Right.
it's on us to help them solve that problem and help put as much of that equity in their pockets as possible and not the banksters. The banksters have plenty of our money already.
No, I love that you bring that up because a lot of people don't understand that. They're like, well, why would somebody possibly want to sell when they've got all this equity? Like you just said, denial is a big one. They don't know who to reach out to. So a big thing for us, and I know it's the same for you, Cam, when we're talking to property owners, is how do we solve as many problems for them as possible without us talking about benefits? Because when you become a problem solver, that's the difference maker on you getting the deals and you getting the deals over other individuals in your area from a competition standpoint. So I definitely feel like vacant houses, and if you could add in a level of stacking to that from a list stacking standpoint, vacant house plus pre-foreclosure, that's a game changer right there that I would highly recommend if you're just getting started. Do that. That's such a great avenue to go down, especially right now. So Cam, you kind of talked about getting started and why right now. So can you just share with people, I know we're kind of running on, time here, but I want people to understand, especially from somebody that has been in this market for 3+ decades. You've seen different markets going up, going down. Why would you say right now is a good time for somebody if maybe they're watching this, they've been on the sidelines for a little bit, they've watched videos on YouTube a lot, and they're like, man, this could be a game changer for me, get set up wealth for myself and create generational wealth as well. Why would right now probably be an opportune time?
Well, I think that given the election that we just saw happen, I have a lot of thoughts on this, but I'll keep it concise. I think one thing that election served as is a giant pattern interrupt for the world. And by a pattern interrupt, I mean when you're like all down and out and you're in this horrible mood, and then all of a sudden you hear this loud noise or somebody goes, hey, and you're like, and you can move on and now you can be in a good mood. There's one of the most hilarious videos on YouTube of this little like 2-3-year-old baby in the backseat of a van with her mom wailing, crying her eyes out, screaming, wailing while the mom is like putting the camera on herself going, what do I do? And then on the baby and all this noise. And so she turns on the stereo, she turns it way up and she starts a song like Katy Perry song or something where it goes boom, chicka boom, chicka boom. And all of a sudden she puts the camera on the kid's going, ah, ah. And then the music comes on and the kid goes.
That's hilarious.
Never saw. And that is what a pattern interrupt is. And the world just got a pattern interrupt.
Hey, book your free strategy session call today by going to 2daycall.com. That's the number 2daycall.com. We'd love to talk to you about how we're tapping into 34 plus lead generation off market strategies in your market. Most of them too are free. Let's talk about it. Let's see how we can help you and your business thrive right now. Head on over to 2daycall.com. Talk to you later. Bye.
So what that means is everyone's kind of like, hey, well, let's think about it differently. Let's take another tack. Let's reconsider. Let's cut loose. Let's stop doing. Let's start doing. It's just this line in the sand where everything changes. And so how does that help you and me as real estate investors? Well, I think it's going to jar a lot of sellers who have motivations, who are in denial, out of that and get them to move. Do I think housing prices are going to change much? Not really. Do I think interest rates are going to change much? No. I think 6-7% mortgage rates are here to stay for another decade. And by the way, if you've been around a while, that's normal and you know it. And if you haven't been around a while, I got news for you. That's normal and you don't know it. This 2% crap that we've seen for the last 2 decades is not
normal. My gosh. Yeah, that was
more
crazy.
Healthy for our monetary system, but that's another discussion for another day.
Yeah.
I also think you're going to see regulatory clamps become unscrewed and thrown in the trash. I think you're going to start to see everybody just kind of exhale. And with that comes less friction, more transactions, more opportunity. And I think you're going to see prices coming down on commodity items. I mean, look, Trump said that he's going to lower the cost of energy. Well, if you look at every good in the world, everything that is produced and sold in the world, its most basic common input to every single thing is energy. Even if it's to manufacture it or if it's just to move it from there to your grocery store, energy. And if you can take the one input that goes into everything and lower the price of it dramatically, well, then the price of everything comes down. And I think what people will discover is that high prices were not businesses gouging the public. They were a necessity in order to stay in business, and those businesses felt awful about charging what they were charging and look forward to lowering their prices, and their margins remaining healthy for them to stay in business. So I think we're going to see the cost of things come way down. Does that mean housing prices are going to correct or something? No. But I think what it means is the cost to repair houses, the cost to build houses may change. And perhaps dramatically. And I hope that the naysayers open their eyes and observe what works and what doesn't work. But I can tell you that if the one common denominator input into every single thing becomes far less expensive, so does every single thing.
Yes,
that's exciting.
I agree. That is exciting.
Yeah, and so, I love periods like this where businesses can grow and thrive and innovate in an environment where they're not afraid of the Fed or the state government coming in and slapping them down. I mean, there's this fear factor that's out. So what that means is you're going to see more innovation and more disruption and more energy going into solving the problems that the real estate industry has. And the biggest problem it has is the cost to build entry-level houses is beyond what entry-level buyers can pay. That is the biggest single problem we have in residential real estate. I'll say it again. The cost to build an entry-level house is now historically greater than what an entry-level buyer can afford to pay. It's this affordability quotient, if you will, where if your wages aren't way up, how can you possibly afford to buy a house, and you're going to be a perma renter? My daughter's 25. She feels like she's trapped and will never own a home.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's a crappy feeling. And
that is.
Here I am, a Gen Xer. I own 2 and, have massive equity in them. And I'm looking at her going, yeah, how the heck is she supposed to even get her foot in the door when she pays $3,700 a month for a crappy apartment in Colorado? Oof. A cheap piece of garbage house out there, which she loves it there, although it was minus 17 this morning. So that was a wake up call. Like to see her come back east, but
oh man, that's pretty cold.
Yeah. So, but my point is that the marketplace is going to begin. There's going to be a lot more transactions. I believe there'll be more transactions. People will be less leery to sell because they're not sure they'll be able to get into something that makes sense that's new to them. So they're, that lock-in effect may go away, although rates have a lot to do with the lock-in effect. And I don't see them changing much, maybe a little, but not much.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I could go on and on. I am just overwhelmingly bullish for everything, including real estate, especially real estate, because that's, where my heart is.
Yeah, I agree with you on all of those things. I talked briefly about it before we started the show, and I'll just say, like, I feel those same sentiments with where the market is headed. And right now is such a great time. Like, I got in like 2008. That was a time when everybody was like, "Do not get in right now," but it was actually a really great time. So I definitely feel you on that. And for people, like, drop a comment below. Like, if you have questions about the market, drop a comment below. Would love to hear your feedback on what you're thinking as well. So as we go in here, one of the big things that I talked about in the very beginning, like with you, is the surprise. So Cam and I have been doing this training now that I put on with our community. Cam has been a very generous with his time with being able to do these trainings. But Cam, I don't know if you know this or not, but when I got started in 2008, I was using a transactional funder for all of my deals, and I was paying anywhere between $4,000 to $6,000 in transactional fees on my deals. And just from 2008 to 2010, I probably spent over $500,000 in transactional fees. And guys, why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because one of the trainings that we have coming up here, Cam has something to where you could get in with no fee funding. So why is that important to you? Well, I just talked to you about from 2008 to 2010, I spent $500,000 in fees. Now, if I would have known Cam back then, I would have saved myself $500,000 in fees.
But we were charging 2 points back then, Jason. So I wouldn't have been a big help to you then.
Right,
a little later is when we changed our business model, though.
So why don't we touch on that here? Like, give people like a little bit of a glimpse on what the training is going to be about. The no fee funding is going to be discussed in there, and I want people to kind of know about that, because some people are like, "Well, do I need to use a transactional funder? Like, do I need to use hard money? Like, why don't we kind of talk about it just so people can understand? Like, this training is coming up, and I'll have a link here in just a moment pop up for you so that people can know where to go and get themselves registered for that.
Sure. So transactional funding is used in wholesale transactions where you do a simultaneous or back-to-back closing. So there's three parties in a wholesale deal, right? There's party A is the seller, party B is you, and party C is your buyer. And we might do an assignment of contract and put A and C together, but assignments are less popular today than they were yesterday, and they were less popular yesterday than they were the day before. So your ability to take title, A to B transaction, then B to C transaction, so you buy, take title, and sell, grant title to your buyer, which is your rehabber, investor, customer. Remember, we're wholesaling now. We're not doing repairs. Your ability to actually fund that deal, close, take title, may have an awful lot to do with how seriously you're taken, which closing agents, title company or attorney you'll work with, and even to a degree, which states you're doing business in. There are some states now that have rules that basically eliminate your ability to do an assignment and really leave for wholesalers one strategy, and that is to take title and resell A to B, B to C. So in order to do that, A to B, B to C, in the old days, and you'll remember this, Jason, you used to be able to take your buyer's money and what they call float the funds over to your seller's escrow. So just simple example, you got this seller, they have a house that needs repairs, they're motivated to sell it, you have it under contract for $200,000. You got your buyer over here, Ricky Rehabber, as I refer to them, who's happy to pay you $220. That's what wholesaling is all about. We make a quick 20 grand. Ricky does the work, sells it to the end buyer, deals with all of that. We move on, go do the next deal. Well, it used to be the 200 we needed to settle with our seller, we could take from our buyer's escrow, the closing agent would take from the buyer's escrow, float over to the seller's escrow, and we wouldn't have to come up with anything more than earnest money. We would not need to come to closing with any money at all. But then around 2008, 2009, title insurance companies, and I don't mean the agent at the corner of Main and Elm, I mean the company, Chicago Title, First American Title, at their headquarters decided that if you wanted a title insurance policy on that A to B transaction where you're buying the property, and when you take title to the property, any property, we always get title insurance. Well, if you want title insurance, you can't use your buyer's funds to settle the seller's escrow. Not only that, if you're closing with a title agent, right, a title company, local at Main and the corner of Main and Elm, they're going to require you to buy title insurance to do the closing. That's how they make their money.
Right.
So floating the funds from your seller's escrow over to your buyer's escrow suddenly became not going to happen. Now, if you've been around a while, you might argue, well, there's other ways you can do that. And yeah, okay, E&O insurance, close with an attorney, and hopefully your attorney's alive and their E&O insurance is still in effect when and if you have a title problem. That's the pirate approach, okay? When we're new, we're not pirates. In fact, when we've been in it for 30 years, we're still not pirates. So anyway, so what that means is if I can't use my buyer's money, I've got to either have the money myself, the $200,000 to settle with the seller, or it come from a third party. It just can't come from the buyer's escrow. We now represent that third party, and we started doing this, Jason, in 2009, right around when you got into the business, and we charged 2 points or so. It depended on how long the money was in use, but generally, it's same day. And it was fine. It worked out great. Our clients loved it. But then the Dodd-Frank Act came along. And in 2012, the part that impacted Wall Street got implemented. And in 2014, the part that impacted real estate and lending got enacted. And we were effectively in the lending business, although it's business to business. So there's no, RESPA, Reg Z. It's not consumer lending. But still, we were charging 2 points for the use of the money for one day. And a friend who's a lot smarter than I am, I've decided, we were at a mastermind and we were out to dinner and he said, "Hey man, how's your thing going?" And I was like, "It's going great." And he said, "Well, you know anything about Dodd-Frank?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, a little." And he said, "Well, have you thought about, how much you're charging and this whole Dodd-Frank piece about lenders overcharging their borrowers?" And I said, "Not really. I mean, our customers are thrilled. 2 points for the use of the money for a day. I mean, look, on that same deal, if we fund the 200 grand for you, you'd pay 4 grand. And that, by the way, is how Jason spent $500,000 for 6 grand at a time. I'm sure, maybe more, maybe 10, whatever."
Yes.
Well, my clients never complained. In fact, they loved us because no, they're not going to make 20 on the deal, but they're going to make 16, and 16 beats the heck out of 0.
Yep.
So I thought we were fine. But then my friend, who's smarter than me, he said, "Well, have you thought about what your annualized percentage rate is on that if you're charging 2 points in a day?" And I said, "Well, no, not really." And he said, "Well, simple math, it's not exact, but close enough for a dinner conversation would be 365 days, right? Use of the money for one day. We want to annualize it. 365 days times 2 points or 2% would be, what's that? 730% interest or so?"
Yes.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I almost freaked out. And by the way, I then and today and for my entire life can say without question, I fear my federal government. I am deathly afraid of the federal government. And when I had to leave the mastermind early. I felt like Mike Tyson had gotten me just right in the solar plexus, just boom. I couldn't even function. I was so freaked out because I hadn't thought of it like that. And you might think, what kind of an idiot are you? Why wouldn't you have thought of that? And that's a topic for another conversation. I am an idiot in a lot of cases. So, so I went into this funk and I decided I can't do this anymore. I'm trying to make a long story short. And I realized that I had to change what we were doing, but we had created this wonderful solution for our clients' problems and my problems, and that's exactly what we are all about at the Real Estate Wealth Network. That's what we do, is we solve problems for our clients, and as an investor, we solve problems for our sellers who are our clients. So
Yeah.
It dawned on me, though, after my wife gave me a pattern interrupt. I don't need to talk more about that. It dawned on me that if I charged nothing, no one could ever accuse me of charging too much. Boom, there's the solution. Now I just need to back into how the heck we can do that and stay in business.
Yeah.
And so we had then, and today, 10 years later, actually 11 now, have improved dramatically and have updated and added and just grown as a good business who's focused on Kaizen does. Then as now we had tools that enabled our clients to do more deals. So I thought, well, what if I put a package of these tools together and they all build on a monthly basis, and people don't like paying monthly for stuff. I don't. And it's become so commonplace. I mean, now you can even pay your doctor on a monthly. You can have a doctor subscription.
That's true. Yeah.
So everybody's moved to that model. And now I'm saying we need to move away. And so I bundled, and I don't like that word, but I put a package of these tools together. And I said, okay, you can have access to this for a full year, no monthly payments. You pay one setup charge, a one-time setup charge, and I'll include the funding on an unlimited basis and our verifiable proof of funds, where if the seller wants to see a bank statement, we will send it on your behalf, and we do it every day with no limits whatsoever. Unlimited use of the data, unlimited use of the funding, unlimited use of the proof of funds, and just put a $1 million cap, a single transaction cap. So we'll fund 100 deals for you this year, but none of them can exceed $1 million, which is okay because we're wholesaling houses, and the day may come where we have to move that up, but $1 million is still plenty.
Yeah.
And with no fees whatsoever, no funding fees whatsoever. So on the closing statement where it says,
awesome.
Lender fees, it's a big fat zero.
That's awesome.
And we disrupted the market so dramatically with that. It was and remains amazing. And Jason, to your point, if we had been around doing that when you were doing your thing, we could have saved you $500,000.
Yeah.
We could save your clients who knows how much, but you will pay no funding fees when we fund your deals. And we are expert at it. I was just looking, in fact, I'm going to pull them up again right now. I was just looking.
I think, because I'm good friends with Josh on your team. I've known him for forever now. And I see on Facebook every once in a while, he shares the amount that you guys have funded. And I'm just like blown away with how much you guys are funding. It's incredible. It's awesome.
I'm going to give you this is like today's numbers. Now we're at $97 million of deals funded for our clients. And they range anywhere from 16,000 to 250,000. Here's one I'm scrolling through a list, $250,000. Here's one 800,000. And I'll tell you what, a number we don't have is the average amount funded. That would be really interesting. I bet you it's maybe $150,000, $180,000.
Yeah.
We do have an occasional exception. Like we just funded a deal for a lady in LA. Her name is Ryan. Sweet gal. I did an interview with her. We funded for her $926,876 on a house in Los Angeles. She wholesaled it and made, are you ready? $275,066.23. I'm
wow. That's a game changer for her. That's an absolute game changer for her to do that on one deal.
Yeah, man. That is not typical. Okay, let's just get that straight across.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Congrats to her.
Typical. I'll tell you what, our average,
no fees.
Zero. Now that would have cost her under normal circumstances. A lot of money. Oh my God, it would have cost her like $20,000.
Yeah, that would have been a lot.
Like 2 points or 3 points, $20,000 to $30,000. our clients over the last 12 months, the average profit they have made is I'm rounding $34,000 per deal that we funded.
Wow.
Here's the interesting thing. This is only on the deals we know about that we're actually funding. We have clients who we teach and enable to do this through our data and everything that are self-funded, and they use their own money, which is fine. Go for it if you have it. I mean, heck, you might as well. But then we also have clients for whom we funded 50, 60 deals who are clearly millionaires, but they still have us fund their deals because they've done something else probably much smarter with their money.
Yeah.
Why not continue to use ours if it doesn't cost anything? Exactly. So it's really exciting, and 2024 was an amazing year. And I we track this stuff. We've been funding deals since 2009. In fact, the very first deal, it's funny, I was just looking at this just before we got on here. The very first deal, we're at almost 1,000 deals we've funded. We're closing in on 1,000 deals.
That's incredible.
The very first deal we funded was on May 28th, 2009 in Columbus, Ohio for a lady named Katrina Johnson. We funded 36,000. She made $6,000 on the deal. That was the very first deal we ever funded.
Wow. How cool is that? Approaching 1,000 deals.
Love it. I just love it. They always say, well, it only really counts when the rubber hits the road or meets the road. Well, right here, the rubber is meeting the road, man.
Yes.
And I have, like Josh, who you just mentioned, he's a member of my team. And I have numerous other members of my team that have been with me for 15 years. I got one gal she's coming up on her 20th anniversary with me in the Real Estate Wealth Network. 11 years, 9 years, 13 years, 17 years. People have stuck with me for the long haul here. And I know why. Because I'm an employer. I own other businesses where I have employees. I own a hotel. I have 30 employees there. Yeah. It's part of the assets that I manage. What I know is that people want to know, not think, not hope, but know that they are making a difference in people's lives with what they do for a living.
Yep.
And when you can validate that to the penny, it becomes irrefutable.
Absolutely.
And then we'll do interviews with these clients in particular. So for example, if you're watching this and you become a client, you do a deal, we fund it. In particular, on your first deal, you're going to get a little note that says, hey, would you like to have a private one-on-one call with Cam? He'd love to meet you and say hi.
Yeah.
Do it. It's fun. And I'll make you feel, if you don't already feel like $1 million, I'll make you feel like $1 million. And if you do, I'll make you feel like $10 million. And
nice. I love it.
And we record that. And then my team gets to see that. And they just melt.
It's huge when you could do stuff like that for people that, are really wanting to come into a training program and they really want to change their lives. And one of the things I love and admire about everything that you guys are doing over there is that you have the proof of people doing this. Close to 1,000 deals, close to $100 million in funding. And some of the people that I see, these video testimonials of you sharing, like those are people that we've even we've sent over as a referral to you because we believe so wholeheartedly in what you guys are doing with the no fee funding. It's just incredible. And if you guys want to check out the training, we'll have a link here. It's noflippingexcuses.com/NFF. That stands for no fee funding. So the link is going to come up right here, and it's going to go specifically to the training that Cam and I put together for you. It's a game changer. I promise you that just after a few minutes, you're going to be like, okay, I made the right decision on being here for this training, especially if you want to take 2025 to the next level. That training is going to be something that you want to get yourself registered for as soon as possible. It's free to come on. And I promise you, within just a few minutes, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I invested in myself to be here right now, because it's that big of a deal for you to get on that training. But Cam, I am so happy that you made some time to be here. I know it was, with me, I got a little sick the last time we tried getting this going, but I'm so thankful that you were able to reschedule with me. I know this time of year we all get really busy and whatnot. We've got some vivacious goals that we want to hit and whatnot. So super appreciate you.
I love that word.
I know you've been using some really good words over it. So I had to dig deep and see if there was something that I could pull out. But with that being said, I know we're kind of at the end here.
Hey,
do you have
let me just add,
any parting words?
real quick.
Yeah.
One, and forgive me for interrupting.
You're fine.
We track with our funding clients where they came from. And it's notable, to echo the point you made a moment ago, that your clients have done exceptionally well with us. So what that means is they're well trained, thanks to you. And there is a kind of synergy between, your folks, how they're trained, their expectations, their motivations, their desire, and our tools and things, and how they mesh between you and me is unique and notable. So I wanted to point that out. Closing remark, I'll leave you with this. It's 2025. The biggest risk I think you might face in 2025 is doing nothing and missing an opportunity of a lifetime.
Yep.
Don't let that happen. If you're sitting on the sidelines and you need to get off, you need to launch, between Jason and myself, let us be the ones to give you the nudge it takes to get you to launch. Don't miss this opportunity. We are only granted with a very limited amount of time and energy in our lives, and it slips through our fingers like water. Don't let this opportunity slip by you.
Man, that's some good advice right there. Now, Cam, I really appreciate you joining us on today's show. Make sure you guys, this was an amazing episode. Cam shared so much wisdom on this show. Head on over, get the additional training. It's absolutely 100% free. Go to noflippingexcuses.com/NFF for no fee funding. We've got it popping up right here for you. So make sure you head on over and check that out. But with that being said, if you have any questions, go ahead, put those down below in the comments section below. I would love to hear for you. What did you enjoy about today's show? Do you have any questions specifically for Cam? Are you doing deals yourself right now? I would love to know. Any goals that you have for 2025, put them below. Would love to hear from you. And again, if you are not a subscriber to the channel, click the red button below. We would love to have you part of our community, and make sure that you give this video a huge thumbs up. We would love to know that you liked and enjoyed this episode. But with that being said, Cam, thank you so much again for making some time to be here. And for those of you that are watching, have a great rest of your day, and we will talk soon. Take care. Bye now.
Hey, go grab a copy of our brand new book. We'd love to put this in your hands. The Art of Flipping Deals. You could go grab your copy today at theflippingbook.com. Make sure you head on over to theflippingbook.com. We'd love to get this in your hands today and show you exactly how you could get free exclusive inbound leads in your business today. Make sure you head on over to theflippingbook.com. Take care. Bye.